Hello, dear friends of Kabala International. We are once again with our friend Mario. How are you, Mario?
Very well,
Shalom.
Thank you, Nacho.
We have already developed several topics, and now there is a very broad topic, obviously unmanageable in this chapter, but we are going to try to give some hints about the topic we are dealing with today, which is the Alef Consciousness, unity consciousness. When we were preparing this chapter, it seemed appropriate to read a fragment from your book, The Secrets of God, Sefer Hatzilut, to begin as an introduction to today's topic. The fragment reads as follows: "And if there is no path by which he should be diverted, and all paths lead to the light, and if there is no path, there is none." And if all that we are writing is neither light, nor is it way, nor is it mind, and we are transmitters of a superior knowledge that when entering in our imperfection cannot access to anything, the imperfection is product of the limits, but the limits in a superior level are not real. They are not limits that can be overcome only if we have the conscience that they do not exist and they exist at the same time. I would like us to expand on this topic a little bit.
To understand Alef's consciousness, it is crucial to grasp the structure of the universe and the soul. Without this understanding, explaining Alef's consciousness becomes challenging. When we explain the structure of the soul from the Kabbalah point of view, we have 5 levels of the soul: Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Yahya, and Yechida. Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama are the 3 subjective levels. Therefore, it means that there is, in the human soul, a desire for subjectivity. I would even say a need for subjectivity, given that we are in a body. Therefore, the Baina is that which is concerned with the dimension of understanding, the rational mind. That which is concerned throughout existence with the construction of the self and the protection of the self. It means that when we enter at this point, we enter into a force opposed to the Alef, which is the existence of the fragment. Then we have an Aleph level of unity, which is where the cosmos comes from, and then we have a system of fragmentation that in Kabbalah we call God in the fragmentation. That is why we call him Elohim, which is a plural. And then we find ourselves in this reality with fragments. Within the soul, there are 2 opposing forces, and those 2 opposing forces must be reconciled. And it is in the work of reconciling these 2 forces that we arrive at Alef's consciousness. So what do we have to reconcile within ourselves? First, what we might call bet structure. I face the world, I have my needs, I have my identity, my personality, my desires, my aspirations. The construction of the psyche is in Binah, and the Binah deals with my family. It does not deal with everyone else's family. That is, the Bina tries to understand the limits and operate as best as possible within those limits. On the other side, the Chokhmah, the wisdom, is the one that has the function of going towards the light, of going upwards, of reconnecting me with the higher level of the Ein Sof, of the infinite. So, of course, within us, there is, we could say, an inner struggle. If I am in solidarity with the rest of society, and if I, in some way, feel a union with the rest of society, there may be some internal forces that oppose this external unity, because the first thing that will come to mind is the answer of the Baina. I have to take care of myself, I have to take care of my family, I have to take care of my nationality, my tribe, my religion, everything that has to do with identity. Now, what is the question? Identity is not wrong. Everybody has his identity. The problem is if the identity blocks the sense of unity. And here begins the question of whether we enter into contradiction or conciliation. The sense of unity is not a psychological sense of unity, it is the structure of the universe. So when we talk about unity, in the Kabbalah, which is not yet Alef Consciousness, we are talking about Alef structure, unity structure. The Alef Consciousness, the only thing that is going to do, is to recognize the structure of unity that exists. What happens is that this structure of unity is hidden in fragmentation, in division, and then we cannot perceive what unites us. In the material, in the superficial, we perceive ourselves as separate. Then, of course, there is an inner struggle in the soul. Where I want to take care of me, of course, I want to take care of the other. I want to get closer to the other. I want to feel unity with the other. But, in principle, it is very difficult for me to achieve this feeling of unity because practically my whole structure is going to be based on the construction of myself, the construction of my identity. Notice that in the tree of life, we go from the need to eat one, because otherwise I will die of hunger, to the social need to have a family, to the need of be myself, that is, at the level of the Tiferet, to have a subjective force. It means that a great part of human life, we could call it hyper-subjectivity. You are working very much the aspirations of the subject to where he wants to go. And it is not ego. I want people to understand this because here there is also another problem. Many spiritualities come and say that is the ego. No, it is not the ego. We are talking about the state of the natural development of the subjective consciousness. It's not ego. I mean, there are people without ego, but they have to make the same way. Therefore, the path of increasing subjectivity begins in a certain way to oppose the sense of unity. Now, why does this happen? This is also in the structure. Because when the structure decided to create fragmentation, when the Ein Sof decides to create fragmentation, and everything is fragmented, every fragment has to have the illusion of independence. Every fragment has to have the illusion of a system. So where do we biologically have the maximum subjective illusion? In the body, our body is our body. It is not someone else's body. But notice that our biology also gives us some guidelines that we are permanently connected to the outside. I mean, I am not an entity totally closed to the outside. Imagine that if I decide now to be an entity close to the outside, and I decide not to breathe, no, I do not want the oxygen that comes from the universe, I die immediately. It means that all the holes that we have in our body are the proof that we are connected with the totality. If I close the holes that I have biologically, I die, but I cannot survive 5 minutes, with which we have two consciousnesses, biological consciousness of subjectivity and the biological consciousness of the unit. Because of this, the structure is unique but manifests itself in diversity and fragmentation. To put it in spiritual terms, however, we do not perceive this as something natural that occurs in biology. We perceive ourselves as completely subjective, and we perceive ourselves as completely united. Numerous spiritualist ideologies such as total unification, everything is Maya, and everything is illusion, originate from India, for instance. This is true. Not all in the Kabbalah is illusion. There is no illusion then. Is real at the level at which it is found. But in the background it is still all unity. But this cannot be declared an illusion because it is real, so there is a reality on space and time surface, and the fragment is real. But the fragment is united to the totality, and this union with the totality shows us that in the background there is a hidden unity that we have to recognize.
In relation to what you were saying, it occurred to me that there is also a work that implies the acceptance of subjectivity as part of the totality. That is apparently that subjectivity separates us, but that subjectivity is part of the totality. And another thing that also occurred to me was the concept that God is disguised as all of us, isn't it?
It's a very nice concept that we are all disguises. We, human beings, and all things. That is, not only human beings, we are all disguises of God. What happens is that where is the problem? When the disguise believes that it is not a disguise, that is where the problem begins. When one does not feel that I am disguising the Ein Sof, I am disguising the divinity. But I believe that this is not a disguise, that this is what I am. There begins, I would say, the mother of all problems. The matrix of all problems begins when I distance myself from my neighbor. I distance myself from the other, not because the other does not interest me. And in Kabbalah, we are not talking about moral solidarity that somebody educated me that I have to have good morals. In Kabbalah, we are talking about how the universe is structured. That is, when we are talking about solidarity, we are not talking about an ideology, a political, religious, or cultural program. We are talking about how the universe is created. That is, the lack of solidarity with the other is in some way, in the structure, an anomaly, a physical anomaly. In terms of physics, it is an anomaly. So, I believe that what we have to do, rather than educating people in morality, they should understand the physical laws of how reality operates. And when you realize how reality operates, that you have to be humble, you realize, that is to say, the moral consequences come from the physical reflection of reality.
I was thinking that the fundamental work is to say that I am without being.
Yes, and it is not being. Be careful, you have to come back. Don't just take me forward, you have to come back. The I knows that it is not, and what it is not knows that it is. That is to say, that is why Cordovero said that it is very difficult for a person to think that he exists and does not exist at the same time. Simultaneity is what we really do not know how to understand, and simultaneity is what leads me to the process of unification of consciousness, Alef. Because of course now we are talking about structure, but we haven't talked about consciousness. Consciousness we have left out. Notice, consciousness is derived from the revelation of the structure of unity. That is to say, when I understand how secret unity works, the secret of the whole universe, the hidden unity, the Alef consciousness appears to me. That is to say, my Alef consciousness is like a discovery of reality. It is not a discovery of my consciousness, it is not a change of my consciousness, it is not a change of consciousness. What happened is that something was revealed that existed in the structure that made me see reality from where I had to see it and that I didn't see it before.
I think this topic is long. It is an infinite topic.
It is long, the Alef topic is long, we could go on for years.
I think we should take it up again, and I would like you to tell us about the casting of the Hebrew letters the next time we take it up.
Excellent, perfect, that's how it will be.
Thank you, Mario.